Good morning, ultimate hustlers and digital empire builders. It is that time for another episode of the Cortez Hustle Show with your boy Cortez Hustle. And today we're talking with L. David Harris, life coach extraordinaire, and extreme execution is the topic. A lot of us want to do better. We want to have more. We want to go to another level. And there's usually a gap between the person that you are and the person that you need to become. And David helps you fill or close that gap. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. But in the meantime, I need y'all to do me a huge favor. Comment in the chat where you're from. Drop the name of your business and or your brand. Smash that share button, ladies and gentlemen. And let's kick it this morning. Yo, what's up, ultimate hustlers, and welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show, the business podcast for the entrepreneur of the 21st century. And I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. Our goal is to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how the world's greatest hustlers build amazing brands, scale their businesses to incredible heights, sell more, make more, and create mass movements that impact the world. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or you're sitting on the sidelines with aspirations to one day unleash your inner hustle. This show will provide the insights into how pure grit, determination, and hard work has morphed into some of the most iconic brands and personalities and how they are moving the culture forward. You'll get a mix of solo shows featuring yours truly, as well as interviews and content from other hustlers that I either know personally or I've learned from or whose grind I've come to know and respect. And you'll also get exclusive recordings from our membership called Monetize My Life Academy, which you can check out at monetizemylifeacademy.com. That's a program where we go live every month with some of the best hustlers on the planet, sharing best practices on how we all can explode our brands with advanced branding and marketing tactics, business development strategies, and financial game planning necessary to build the empires we all desire. Again, that's at monetizemylifeacademy.com. If you like today's episode, chances are the hustlers you're connected to will like it as well. Share it with those in your network. And when you do, use hashtag Cortez Hustle so I can see you and hopefully give you a shout out and share you in my stories. So check out today's episode and make sure you subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcasting networks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show. I am, of course, your host, Cortez Hustle, everybody's favorite SaaSpreneur, coming to you live and direct from the local Biz Marketing Pro Studios right here in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're a small local business looking to optimize your online presence, increase your lead flow, grow your revenue, check out our good friends over at localbizmarketingpros.com. They have everything that you need to take your small business to the next level and play on the field with the big boys. Today, man, we're talking extreme execution with David Harris. I can't wait for this conversation. Comment in the chat where you're from. Let us know the name of your business and or your brand, and what's the number one challenge you have with execution. Is it procrastination? Is it overthinking? Is it perfectionism, which, just by the way, so you know, it's just a bougie way of saying procrastination. But what is your challenge when it comes to executing the things that you know you absolutely need to do? And we're going to have life coach extraordinaire David Harris to come shed some light on how we can get better in the area of execution. A couple quick announcements, really just one this morning. Monetize My Life Academy is still going strong. You can still take advantage of our $1 7-day trial to see if it's a good program for you. If you've been trying to figure out how do you leverage the internet to package and present your knowledge, your expertise, your gifts and talents to the marketplace, then Monetize My Life Academy is not only a training program, but it also provides the tools and the templates and the training that you need to do just that. Make sure you check out monetizemylifeacademy.com. So without further ado, man, I'm excited about this conversation. I got a chance to listen to some of the clips out there on this young man. And when I tell you, he is going to let you guys have it in terms of holding you accountable to the things that you say you want to do. Let me introduce to some of you guys and present to others, Mr. David Harris. Good morning, my friend. How are you, David?
Peace. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well, man. Happy to have you on the program. And we're going to jump right in, man. I
Hmm.
start the show normally with a quote of the day. So before we get into who you are, let's get into the quote of the day. That's why I'm going to share a quote. And you can either chime in on this one, or if you have a favorite quote that you like to share with our audience, then by all means, feel free. But today's quote comes from the great, the legendary Yoda, right, from the Star Wars series. And what's funny, I've never watched Star Wars end to end, any of the movies, right? But the great Yoda has a quote that I like where he says, "Do or don't do, there is no try," right? Either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it, David. One of the things I absolutely hate is for those people who are not going to do, and then all they do is complain about what they're not going to do, right? It's one of my biggest pet peeves. But Yoda says, "Do or don't do, there is no try. Either you got it done or you didn't," right? No judgment, but just that's the reality of things. So, David, do you have a favorite quote that you like to share? Or do you want to chime in on that
I want to do both because
one? Okay.
really, I'm thinking about this guy named Polonius from, I think it was Hamlet, Shakespearean play Hamlet.
Mhm.
And he said to his son as he was preparing for university, of course, they used oldish English, but he
Yeah.
said, "To thine own self be true." And then in some poetic way, he said, "And then you can't lie to anyone else." So he
Mm,
gives his son like this long list of stuff to avoid and to do to keep himself pure, but ultimately to thine own self be true.
mm.
So you can't lie to yourself or anyone else. So if you're talking about the great philosopher Yoda, I'm
Yeah.
saying if it's do it or don't, be honest with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm honest with me, like for instance, we were going to connect regarding this I don't want to just call it a show, but you call it the Cortez Hustle Show, but it's a movement. I paid attention to you. I don't just say yes for saying yes sake.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's if you're not about the hustle, don't say it,
Right. I love it.
right?
I love it.
And
Yeah.
hustle is a verb. So
Hmm.
it's motion. It's perpetual motion for what I'm seeing from you. So
Yeah.
it's all about being honest with ourselves. And then when two of us come together or more than two come together, then we can be honest with one another about where we are, where we want to be, and how we're going to get there. Full stop.
Love it. Love it. Love it. That, my friends, is the quote of the day right here, the David Harris version, brought to you by our good friends over at Monetize My Life Academy. Listen, you can turn your knowledge into an online course business if you want to. It's 100% online, no need for a team. You can work at home, high profit margins, start immediately. If you got a computer, internet connection, and some hustle about you, then check out monetizemylifeacademy.com. $1 gets you in the door, and you can see all that we have to offer. MonetizeMyLifeAcademy.com. So, David, my friend, I ask everybody who comes on the Cortez Hustle Show this one question. So you don't get to escape it. I'm going to ask it to you. And the question is this, my friend: who the heck are you?
Who am I? Yeah, that's that question that they give you in university, right? The first class, that's communication 101. And who am I? I'm L. David Harris. That's my name. But the who that I am, listen, I don't, this is not a shameless plug, really. I was reading this book, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is a book that I published in 2016, and I'm going through it right now because it helps me to remember,
Yeah.
because it's about shining and not giving ourselves any excuses. Like
Mm-hmm.
the excuse I could have had was that I grew up in New York City
Mm-hmm.
in a broken home situation where there was a hypocritical flow because daddy is supposed to be like a minister and show the whole world how to get closer to the creator, but
Mm-hmm.
home is suffering, right?
Yeah.
And then I grew up in the hood in the 70s and 80s. So growing up in the hood, daddy's not really there. I'm on the road by myself by age 9. Go home, nobody's home. My sister's my elder by 7 years, so she's into boys by that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could have said, "Daddy's not here." I could have said, "Well, I grew up in the hood." I could
Mm-hmm.
have said, "I've been abused," which I have been in multiple different ways growing up.
Yeah.
I could have said that it was the murder capital at the time that I was growing up in that city. And I
Mm-hmm.
can go down this long list of things to say, well, I am a statistic.
Yeah.
but I'm not choosing to say that because thankfully, God helped me to go through all of those things and learn along the pathway. It was rough,
Mhm.
and there's still things. I say I'm 49 and 0. That just means I'm 49 years of age. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff I'm still learning and
Mhm.
unlearning. But the fact is, growing up with all of those risk factors
Mhm.
in a lot of ways makes me who I am because it makes me more sensitive. I have an 11-year-old son, been married 21 years. So
Mhm.
I'm sensitive now. Like I'm super dad.
Yeah.
Like I stopped working for someone, even though I was always an entrepreneur, to be honest. But I
Mhm.
stopped working for a boss when my son was born so that we could erase the risk factors. So call me
Mm.
Mr. Dad. You
Yeah.
can call me Mr. Dad. You can call me Get It Done. But the point is to build legacy for me. A lot
Yeah.
of things went wrong, but I can't use those as like a crutch to say just continue down the wrong path because that doesn't help anybody.
Right. Right. I love that, man. And that's a solid answer because that is where we are in this society. Woe is me.
Hmm.
Give me an out so that I don't have to be accountable for the things that I could control.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of things that I couldn't control about my past, but there's lots that I can do right now. But I want you to use my past and give me an out so that I don't have to do those things. Amazing. We have a lot of things in common and in
Hmm.
parallel. Take me back to that time, man. I want to ask you a question because I feel this way. Or how do you deal with the feelings towards your dad as you start to understand what fatherhood is? My dad got killed when I was 11. And to be honest with you, I'm still a little mad at him that he got himself killed. Right. And that really messes me up sometimes. And I have to, pray about it and I have to meditate and kind of control. But did you have any ill will when you start to understand that? For me, well, being a father, being present and being here didn't seem like that hard to me, but I don't know. I couldn't judge my father in his circumstance. He did Vietnam and, came back with some issues or whatever. But I'm like, man, it seemed like it could have been done by him and it wasn't. So I held some resentment. How about you, my friend?
Yeah. So my sensitivity didn't come because I'm a father, because I became a father, if you want to say late in life, considering our generation,
Yeah.
people would have children earlier than my wife and I did. Like we were
Okay.
pushing 40, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So the sensitivity I had started in 96. It never gave him an out because he, in my mind, was fully culpable. He's passed away years ago.
Hmm.
When I was a young boy, I actually learned to hate him. I was
Hmm.
happy when I said learn to hate him.
Hmm.
Can I say
Hmm.
that again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Learned to hate him.
Hmm.
That's not passive. Like that comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
And when I was 13, my parents got divorced and I was excited about it. Like I was like, finally, some peace, right?
Mm.
Um, Long story, but somewhere between age 13 and 23-ish,
Hmm.
when I became 22, 3, that's when I started to love God. Like I didn't love God before. I
Gotcha.
did some like love God looking stuff. Like I went to
Mm.
church because somebody told me I had to, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
until about, I don't remember what age, but until I didn't have to. I left home when I was 15 and never lived at home again. Right.
Mhm.
So, but when I learned to love God, my hatred went away for him, but I still had a lot of problems in my mind I couldn't reconcile. You
Yeah.
see?
Yeah.
And but the sort of in the undergirding principle was where the Bible says that we're to honor our parents.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
noticed like I'm flipping the pages like where's the conditional? Like if he's worthy, right? If he does the right thing, if he
Yeah.
apologizes, right? If he's
Yeah.
good, like if he's lovable, it didn't say that. So
Mhm.
even though I didn't know how to relate to him, the hatred
Mhm.
went away immediately.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
then, make a long story short, I realized, and I still didn't give him any excuse for it, to be honest. I just didn't.
Mhm.
Long
Yeah.
story, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that I am him.
Mm.
That light switch popped on when I would go places and my wife would be present. And this is before we had a son. and they'd be on the stage. I'm like, it's my time. Like how you came on. I like your intro. I like how you move, Cortez.
Thank you.
Right. And then you hear that and it's like, come on, let's go. And he's on the stage. That's me. And I'm hearing all of this wonderful stuff about me. Right. And it was surreal. I would go back to my wife, Simone, and say, that stuff that they're saying from the podium. Do you know that guy? Because as a young boy, I was like, send that dude that you guys keep applauding for, send that dude to my house because I kind of like him. Yeah. My dad was not the guy that I heard them introducing from the podium or saying, you know, whatever those accolades were. Yeah. So I would go to my wife regularly to make sure that what she was hearing as I was ascending to, I don't know what word you want to use, but a lot of people know who David is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does the guy that these people say live in your house? Otherwise, I need to burn down all of what I've been doing because I can't do hypocrisy, bro. I'm on that Polonius thing, to thine own self be true. Like I cannot do hypocrisy. And if I'm not that dude, then I need to just pause and become a hermit until we get this thing straight so that I can go out. So I recognized his gifts and his talents and what may have driven him. Yeah. And what it did was bring an insulation level, like a wall up to say, oh my goodness, that's what he was struggling with. Cause I'm feeling this from internal now.
Ah, okay.
I'm sensing it because I'm him. Like I have his DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see? So that helps me. The fatherhood piece, I'm learning in reverse. Like my son is teaching me fatherhood, but sensitivity to dad, I didn't get that way. Yeah. I got it by just kind of recognizing, wait a minute, you have these gifts. You have these talents. There's some things that are pulling at you in terms of temptation that came from somewhere. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's what this dude was dealing with. No excuses, but oh my goodness. Like this is crazy. Right.
Yeah. So and I think that's a lot of times we don't we don't often give the same grace that we expect others to give us.
That's right.
And that's kind of where I came to. It's like, there are some things there. And I didn't know him. I didn't get a chance to grow up with him. I spent first grade with him and third grade with him. Other than that, I didn't know him. And even when I did live with him, he worked 2 jobs. He worked at 7 to 3, and then he ran a club at night. So I still didn't grow up with him. I literally have just a handful of memories with he and I having a conversation, right? So that's kind of where I am with it. So I appreciate you sharing that piece with me. So 13, they kind of split. Any thing that you can punch your finger on that says, hey, because they split, it helped me do this. You said you left the house at 15 and never turned back. Did the split have anything to do with that, or was it just?
No. Somehow, I think providence. Y'all can look it up. If you don't know what it is or agree with it, just look it up and see what other people are saying about it. Providence, P-R-O, providence. So providentially in grade 10, one of my homeboys in school said, we need to go to fill in the blank school, which was in the bush of Pennsylvania. Bro, I'm a straight city dude. But it was such a silly thing, but we were young. Right. And it makes sense. I had testosterone and it was like kicking up, young boy. And he said, because they have girls there. Bro, I live in New York City. Like, where do I need to go to find girls? But those were the words that he used. He said, let's go. Well, that was an expensive place. Mom's already divorced, but I guess she was making money now, finally, because she was connected to her brother and they were doing well. Now that I think about it. And so I go to her and I say, next year, I want to go to this school in Pennsylvania. Well, her brain heard this year, bro, Providence. So I leave the city. I get to this bush school in Pennsylvania and I cried real tears. I was like, what is this place? And what am I doing here? Like, what is with all the grass? Like, now I appreciate rural areas. But what my mom told me, who's also now deceased, she told me, and I know that she's right now, if I hadn't left the city at that time, I would have been locked up or dead. Because she was going through some things with her big bro, where he had $1,000 a day, US $1,000 a day habit for crack cocaine and some other stuff. He had some drugs of choice, and he had the money to burn, and there were some other people helping him burn the money. And she was going around the city looking around for him and going into these places. And there were some situations she described to me that the little hood boy that didn't want any trouble, but if the trouble came to his house, that's me, then he would deal with it. Yeah, that would have been a problem. But the fact was that I was sequestered and protected by being away from New York City in this school that I had some challenges the first year because I didn't understand the culture. But it was the safe place, and it was a year early. And the brother that said, let's go, got shot. He stayed in the city. He didn't even come. He stayed in the city and didn't even come.
This is your great idea.
Yeah.
And now you by yourself between the two of y'all? There was no other homeboys, no other crew? Like, not that I grew. I think I may have met one or two that I think about. Like I had some cousins that I knew that I didn't grow up with. So it wasn't like I didn't know anybody when I got there. But from where I came from, I didn't have nobody. Wow. And listen, the blessing is, that's why I say look up that word, y'all. PRO, providence. I could not have, like, it's like God used something in my just after puberty brain to say, this is what you're going to do. Because I wouldn't have listened to him the normal way. So since the guy's going to say something about girls, I'm like, I like that. Let's go. And it helped keep me out of a world of trouble, because after I got out of those 2 years of high school and went away to university to DC, which by the way became, or Maryland, right outside of DC. Then I lived in DC for 8 years, which became, subsequent to that time, the murder capital. So now I got 2 murder capitals under my belt. But at least I had that reprieve where I had learned to behave somewhat. So by the time I started doing all kind of crazy in DC, it was less crazy because of that time that I had in Pennsylvania, away from the sights and sounds of all kind of who knows what. You got the chance to see something different, right? And a lot of times we take that for granted, right? I was sharing with my wife not long ago something that someone said to me when I was a child and how it changed me, right? We don't understand that it doesn't take a whole lot, right? What, like you said, providence, something that you pick up on. It could be out of the blue. It could come from a stranger, but changing environments is vitally important, man. So we're going to get to my favorite segment of the show, David, which is a segment that I call 1 Minute Motivation. I'm going to drop in a clip of a short motivational video, normally 60 to 90 seconds or so. I'm going to ask you to give your takeaways. I'm going to give a couple takeaways, and then those who are watching us live, when they're able to type, they usually give us some takeaways as well. So let's get into some 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show.
There are things that you learn from struggling. There are things that you learn from tests and trials and trial and error. Some of my best teachers were failure. It takes time to do well. It takes even longer to be well. And that some people are seasonal. Some relationships are seasonal. Some opportunities are seasonal. And yet when we see the seasons change, we think the blessing has ceased. But it is not that the blessing has ceased. It is that the season has changed. There's a great deal, I got a lot of trees in my yard. There's a great deal of difference between how my yard looks in the spring and how it looks in the fall. And by the time it gets to winter, quite frankly, the trees are ugly and barren and destitute. And if you came in the winter and saw it, you would have no idea of how beautiful it would be if it takes time. Time to plant. And there's a time to pluck up that which is planted. Do you know the difference in your life?
Woo-wee. That is, of course, the voice of the legendary TD Jakes. The reason this is my favorite segment, I believe wholeheartedly in self-development. But what most people don't get is that everything you consume is self-development, right? It's just, are you being intentional? Are you developing in the right direction? But I doubly love it when I have a guest on the show, because we all just listen to the same clip, but based on where we are in life, we all heard something very different. So what did you hear, my friend?
Listen, because like I don't listen to Jake's a lot, but recently I saw where he handed the torch to his daughter. And when you look at what his daughter's been through, how the ministry that those folks in Texas grew over time. I think it's the Potter's House. That's the ministry. And see that while the man is strong, he's passing the torch to his daughter, who's been through a lot, and said, I'm about to use just one word in a second. He said, the reason I'm doing this is not because you're my child, but because the calling's on you. So I'm just going to put that one word in there. It's called legacy, bro. So the season came for the old man and his lovely wife to move to the background because the season changed. And he was honest with himself. There were a lot of old preachers and motivational people and other influential people who are so proud that they think they're eternal. But our elder brother was like, no, listen, it's time for you. I don't remember the young woman's name, but his daughter. It's time for you. What's her name?
Sarah Jakes.
Sarah. Oh my. So the times that we are given as we transition, if we don't maximize them, we lose. If we're looking backwards, I tried it with my son. I said, you can't walk forward while looking backwards. Of course, he tried it. And I was like, no, your neck is not all the way turned back, bro. Like, you can't do it. And he tried it, man. And when his neck got so far back that it was kind of crazy and scary, he started stumbling. I said, you see? So you can't look backwards and move forward at the same time. And if you're trying to do that, then you're not sitting firmly in the season that matters at the moment. And when the next season comes, you're not seated firmly in that moment of the season that matters. And so you just miss the bus every way you look at it. So I'm thankful for legacy. I'm thankful for transitions. I'm thankful for us being able to not be responsible for anything more than what we have right in front of us in terms of time, only the moment. Like, I could drop dead. I'm not morbid, but I could drop dead in the middle of the program, bro.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's it. I don't have 36 more minutes. I got this moment.
I love that. At some point, he talked about it taking time to do well and even longer to be well. Right. I share, when I said similarities, I remember the abuse and things as a young kid. And I tell everybody who will listen that I spent the first 27, 28 years of my life trying extremely hard to convince the world that I really was who I was pretending to be. Right.
How'd that work for you?
It literally drove me crazy. Literally, when people stand up in church and they testify to giving honor to God and thanking Him for waking me up, clothed in my right mind, most people have never woken up outside of their right mind, but I have. It literally almost killed me, right? And it took me a long time to deal with the trauma and the hurt to be well, so that I'm approaching the place in my life where I'm starting to do well, right? So that hit me. But seasonal changes, man, that when I saw that thing, I watched it over and over and over with my wife as he passed the torch to Sarah Jakes. And to your point, so many people hold on too long. And not only do they not pass the torch, but because they were not preparing a successor, it it just messed up everything, right? And there was no clear successor. So not only did you not pass the torch, you missed the opportunity to prepare the person who you're passing the torch to.
That's
And I
it.
believe he's in a great position now in his life to help prepare her for walking in that calling that's on her life, man. So,
Can we just dial back a minute, man? You just dropped like some like heavy stuff. Can we
yeah,
pause for a moment? Can we do
absolutely,
it?
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about wellness, bro, first of all, like I'm proud of you for being able to be vulnerable,
Yeah,
right? You're not vulnerable on somebody else's program. Like you're vulnerable to the people who see you most.
yeah,
So I'm thankful for that because that is one of the greatest steps that we can make. Not that we have to tell all of our business. Some people have a
yeah,
habit of doing that.
yeah,
But to be vulnerable enough to say, boy, talk about some challenges. So one of the principles that I practice by,
mhm,
in terms of coaching and otherwise is about health. It's about mental health and
mhm,
emotional health. So
yeah,
mental health could loosely be seen as the intellectual health. I know for psych people like me that means something different, but
mhm,
intellectual wellness, and then comes the emotional health, which is
yeah,
wealth that has to do with our feelings.
mhm,
And if we are trying to make a contribution to the world without being well, or at least really, really far along the pathway to
yeah,
wellness,
yeah,
you know what kind of destruction we leave in our wake?
yeah,
So we need to be seeking wellness,
mhm,
wholeness,
mhm,
so that the contribution that we make can be a positive one. So we don't have to be like the statistic of hurt people,
yeah, yeah,
but we can be, I'm not looking for utopia, but at the same time, once you recognize where you've been and where you are and what the challenges that were, and you're moving in the right pathway, then
mhm,
the likelihood that you will make a positive contribution is greater.
yeah. I couldn't agree more. And it becomes difficult for you to hurt people, and I think that's where we ultimately should be seeking to evolve to, right? It's too easy to hurt each other these days, right? And that's why it's a perpetual cycle of pain. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show. The L. David Harris version, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all check out his website, ldavidharris.com. We were talking about your upbringing and kind of getting to know you a little bit. One of the things that I'm super excited and passionate about when it comes to this hustle, or i.e. entrepreneurship, is that most people look at entrepreneurship and they have one definition or one way of entry, right? I didn't want to be I didn't want to have a boss. I wanted to do my own thing. Well, that's not always the case. There's a million and one ways that one finds himself in the realm of entrepreneurship. So I love to get the backstory and try to understand. So as more people are starting to see that, oh, I'm a little bit like David. You know, I went through some stuff similar. You mean to tell me I can be an entrepreneur? I thought that stuff kept me from being an entrepreneur, right? So I love the backstory and I appreciate your openness. But let's talk and transition a little bit. So you went through the school couple years, then the DC, Maryland area, right? What was life like for young David going into corporate with the background that you came from? What was that like?
Well, um, I think it was okay because in one way, because the bravado that I needed, and that may not be good for some people's temperament, but if you know
Mhm.
my temperament, I might come back to that. I
Yeah.
needed that extra drive, that extra oomph,
Mhm.
because I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm guessing that, 30 some minutes in, people are like, yeah, right, introvert.
Yeah.
But I've learned to adapt. And part of my adaptation had to do with from where I came, the
Mhm.
places that I've lived, at the times that I have lived, the things that I've had to deal with. So it was in like 97 that I learned to sort of adapt to come out, not really out of my shell, but to come out, do what I need to do, and then go back into my shell, my shell.
Yeah.
Right. And so that upbringing positions me that wherever I go, I'm good. I may not like it, but I'm good. Like I can get through anywhere. Like I've lived in rural America. I live in the Caribbean right now, in Jamaica. Like, and people are like, well, how do you do that? Like, what is it like? And I listen, a lot of the stuff I do is in the extreme the two extremes of the so-called socioeconomic ladder. Like the other day, I'm in the heart of Trenchtown, which, you know, is not the hood. Like I grew up in the hood. The hood is like in America is like where the socioeconomics positions people where they can become subject to crime and violence, drugs, and so forth. But they may have like a 10-foot by 10-foot patch of grass in the front of their house.
Right. Yeah.
But the ghetto is the hood plus.
Yeah.
The comforts are not quite there. Yeah. And in this particular ghetto, listen, it's nothing for people to just start barking their, pardon me, that's a colloquialism for pulling out their weapons and shooting them at any time of the day. Pardon me for that. Right. And the adjoining communities, but I'm good in that hood. I'm good in Spanish Town where, you know, if I say too much, I'll say too much, but I'm good in those communities. But when I take myself to the so-called upper echelon places where things are a lot different, and some people would normally be intimidated because of the who's who being there, I'm good there too, because that city that never slept provided all of that access.
Yeah.
I didn't experience it, but I saw it. I was like, oh, wait, that's how they live?
Yeah.
Okay. I may not live. I don't know if I'll live like that, but I see how they speak. I see how they move. I understand what drives them. So we can move in those areas now.
Love it.
If needed.
Love it. So let's talk corporate. Kind of got you there. You said birth of your son. This is the other piece to me pushing entrepreneurship so hard. And that is when I married a woman who had 2 children, right? It's funny, as they say, if you want to hear God laugh, tell them your plans. Man, I seen too much baby daddy drama. I ain't never messing with no woman with no kids. And then here I am with this woman, fell in love with her 2 boys, mine now oldest sons, before I fell in love with her, right? And when we started to look to move and buy a house, and we're looking at, you know, what's the first thing you look at? Okay, what is the school district like for the kids and all that kind of stuff. And I remember doing just well enough to be able to move them into what we would consider a safe school district. And I know that my duty is to provide and protect. Well, I provided a roof, right? But how well did I protect? Because I wasn't able to be there for them emotionally if something happened at school. Teacher called them out of their name, had some questions about some things that's in the curriculum and all of those kinds of things. And I don't think we're taught protection in that way as men. It's like, hey, if I provide, and I would say to my wife, hey, I put you in this safe neighborhood, right? I've done my part. That's not enough, especially for our young men. So walk us through the decision to walk away from corporate and do your own thing so you can be there for your son.
Well, you described it. I may have gone to the extreme, but I'm quite okay with it. So my wife, Simone, and I both decided that our child, whoever the child would be, right, would be taken care of by parents and not caregivers. And no disrespect to people who have caregivers for their children, but that was our decision. And then I have these extreme stories of my upbringing and what that caregiving concept, or really lack thereof, but being without parents, what the problems that stuff brought. And I was like, whatever it takes. And I had a plan. We moved out to the country already, I left the city. Well, I actually left the hood. I left the city. We lived in the suburbs as a married couple now. And then we moved to a rural area with acres and all of that. I had to look up at the definition as a grown man. I needed to look up the word acre because I didn't know what it was.
Wow.
And I'm fairly intelligent, bro.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what an acre was, right? So I looked it up, and then we used Google Maps and found the deep green stuff and zoomed in and said, okay, based on a bunch of stuff, let's move here. Then we decided to have a child, but some things didn't work out financially like I had anticipated. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stay home.
Yeah.
And left higher education. That was my area at the time, 12 years by then. And took care of the boy, Josiah, from home. And then eventually I got a contract to do what I was already doing. And I was already an entrepreneur, but not 100%.
Gotcha.
And so it was about family. For the first 2 years of his life, the purpose of daddy being at home, mommy was like a high-level medical person in DC, helicopter transport and some other complex stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm home with him, earning with him. We're creeping up on age 2 now. And it's like, this was a cool idea, but he's not going to get the best if he gets past age 2, because babysitting is not the same as taking care of your child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can't work and hustle and take care of him simultaneously. So in order to make it work, we left the country altogether. That was the next move.
Wow.
We left the country altogether to bring mommy home. So she's right outside that steel door to my right, right now. I just went and picked him up before I came to you, brought him home, and now I'm back behind the door with all the stuff I need to do to get the hustle on. He has mommy, he has daddy. It's extreme, but it was about family. That's the whole point of it for us.
I love that, man. And I post on my social pages. When I built a profile on Facebook called Financial Health Mentor. And that whole thing was about, hey, understand how entrepreneurship puts you in a different place in this economy. And you could leverage that new positioning as the foundation to building wealth, right? And I built that page, and from time to time, I post highly polarizing things on that page to get a sense of what people are feeling and the emotions and all of that kind of stuff. And when I tell you that when we talk about living, on 30% of your income, for instance, like, people lose their friggin' mind as if there is no possible way on God's earth to increase your income. And I'm like, there's no possible way on God's earth for you to network and connect with a brother or a sister or a sibling and y'all get something together that's going to reduce. Like, it's mind-boggling, but I guess when you don't have a plan, as they say, everybody else has a plan for you, and you fall into everybody else's plan. So looking back, right, was that the right move?
I don't have to look back. I can look at now. Of course, it's the right move. Yes. And pardon my hyperbole. I'm one of those guys. But yes, absolutely yes. Because for me, like, I don't choose to live with regret. The only regrets that I live with are ones that have a moral, they are of a moral nature. But when it comes to like day-to-day life, like, we were doing well when we lived in the rural area outside of DC. It was 96 miles from DC. We were driving 96 miles one way.
Wow.
And then wifey's going one way by herself when daddy's home with the young man. And that's part of what precipitated the move as well, right?
Gotcha.
So by the time we get to here, I'm doing okay. I mean, we lost a lot of money, but we did it on purpose. I'm doing okay. But then I lost the contract. Bro. And, we grew up in, I'm thinking even wherever you grew up in America, you probably had the little coin rolling papers when we were young. right? Well, that doesn't exist here. They give you bags and you put your coins in these bags, you put them in 100 coin increments and you take those to the bank. So yeah, David, who was doing well, and we make the transition, doing okay, went broke. Just like that.
Yeah.
Well, Job went broke. He was wealthy in one day, but that's another discussion.
Right.
But yeah, and we're counting. The boy can't count, but he's giving me the coins. As I say, point at that one, put that one in, and I'm going to the bank. And I remember saying to Simone, my wife, you know, when I know, and I said it in the vernacular of a Jamaican, right? You know, when I know I'm doing well, and listen, I'm going to try to do it without crying for once, right? When I can buy more than one pack of tofu at a time at the supermarket. Bro, we were paying $1,400 US a month in gas on, no, not on one car, in gas. $1,400 US a month in gas when we were in rural America. So we were doing okay. You can pay that much money just to drive a car.
To drive.
To get to work. Right? So for me, there was no regret because the goal, it was a values-based move. It wasn't a hustle-based move. It wasn't a great idea-based move. So I have zero regret. We got through it. Thank God.
That's it.
And straight up.
I love it. Talk to us about execution, man. Extreme execution. As if we haven't been talking about it since we started 45 minutes ago, because you've executed the extreme over and over and over again. From I'm in one high school 1 minute, and the very next minute, complete culture shock. I'm in one country 1 minute, and the next minute, I'm in another country. Complete talk to us about your life coaching, right? And
what
you bring to people, because I as I'm listening, I'm like, man, so many people go it alone, right? And why is that a bad idea? And what is it that you bring to the table that can help someone get the most out of who they are, right? I talk about not becoming something different, but becoming more of who God already made me to be, tapping into the resources that are there that I just haven't tapped into yet, right? So what is life coaching like with David Harris?
Well, let me tell you what it's not like for once. I'm going to break my own rule. What it's not like, and no disrespect, it's not like saying, and I won't say what, but words to yourself in the mirror multiple times a day, and to get your energy up, and that be the end of it. It's not a feeling. It is about, as you would say, you said, embracing, but first we need to learn, but embracing the who of who we are, how we tend to relate to people, how we tend to relate to processes and procedures, how we tend to relate to problems, and how we tend to relate to these other areas of our lives, right? So as we learn ourselves and we're being honest with ourselves, then we can be of service to others. So for instance, if I know that in terms of pace, I am either very fast or very slow, then I begin to understand, well, what is it that is driving whether I do or do not execute on my goals or tasks that are right in front of me? Same thing with people, same thing with protocol, same thing with problems. And all of us are a composite of these areas, but there are blips on the screen. There are strengths that rise to the top. Some people call them superpowers, right? And then there are limitations as well. Some superpowers or strengths can be pushed to the extreme. Like me, I am an introvert. I am nose to the grindstone. Let's get it done. But what if I didn't really want to collaborate with Cortez? Because my head is down. I'm about getting it done, and I'm an introvert. But if I push that to the extreme, then I can't collaborate. I can't build bridges. I can't have a good relationship with people and then make contributions as well as I'm learning. And so Extreme Execution is a program by Thomas & Thomas Consulting LLC. Some of you know Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, right? Number one motivational speaker in the world. So that is his company, his brand. And for people who are trained and certified, we are using the principles that are found in what's called the flight assessment. And in the flight assessment, we learn about those 4 areas and then learn how to maximize those. The blessing is I wasn't looking for something new to do. In 1996, I started work in behavior modification and management in the psych arena, not some theoretical thing. Right. And then in 2001, I started to get into assessments, including DISC, Myers-Briggs, later on, the elements of leadership, 4 elements of leadership, and some others. And so all of these converge in my bosom now, where it is not something that I'm just doing. It's who I am. It's a part of my blueprint.
Gotcha.
So for me, it's about becoming aware and then maximizing the who of who we are so we can make the greatest impact in the world.
I love that, man. Because self-awareness is something that's missing. Again, we live in a world where I don't have an identity. I just assume whatever the world says that I am or I should be, right? And I think that messed me up for years, bro. And I had to really get quiet and deal with me. And I noticed how when I was a younger man, I didn't like to be alone and I didn't like to be in quiet spaces because I get to hear the voice. So I was the guy, if I'm at home by myself, all the TV's on in the house. Yeah. And I ain't watching none of them. I'm in the car, the radio is blaring, but I ain't listening, right? I was the kid who, man, y'all got to go in, hang out for just a few more minutes, right? Because I didn't want to deal with me. And when I started that process, man, so revealing, so impactful, and I'm still working on and dealing with me, but I will tell anybody listening, that's where it all starts, right? I think you would agree.
Yeah. So pardon me, I have to cough. I have a cough button, Cortez. I saw that in a radio station some years ago. I got one now. Yeah. So the thing about it is, what we drill to when we're doing life coaching is, as you described yourself and some of what drove you to be the way that you were. Yeah. Now we want to drill down just a little bit and say, okay, well, what caused that? Yeah. What caused you to adapt in that way? Yeah. And how is that holding you up, holding you back from wellness? How is it holding you back from setting realistic goals and attaining to them? How is it holding you back from making the impact that you can and must make on community? Yeah. What impact does that have on your values system? You see, or it should be vice versa. But sometimes our unwell space, that state that we find ourselves, causes us to throw away values. And values is how we relate to the creator. Whether we know or agree that there is one, yes or no, there are certain things that we all recognize are right, and some things are just not right. They're just wrong. We know it. Yeah. And if we are unwell moving into society, values out the window, community out the window, health, wellness out the window, right? And of course, you can forget about routines and goals until you start to get a handle on the who of who you are, what's driving that. And that's what we drill to. It's not just about positive speaking. And that's cool. Yeah. You can get some of that, and we'll do that. Right. But there's much more to it than just saying positive words.
Love it. Love it. Well, David, my friend, we've come to my second favorite segment of the show.
Drum roll. Let's go.
Freestyle, because I know you got bars, bro. You can't be from the big city and Jamaica and not be able to spit flames, bro. No, freestyle is not about rhyming, even though I could drop a beat if you okay, never mind. Freestyle is, as I'm building this multi-billion-dollar international media conglomerate, starting with this podcast, I don't always ask the right questions. The conversation doesn't always evolve to where we want it to go. So freestyle is me giving you the opportunity to either reiterate something that you feel is important that needs to be said again, or if we have not touched on something that you feel is really important, you want to make sure that our listeners hear from you. This is your opportunity to take 2 minutes to give them what you feel that they need to have at this point in our discussion. So this is freestyle right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, the David Harris version. Hit them with your best bars, bro. Wait a minute, I think you froze up. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. I don't know if you can hear me, David, but you are frozen on screen. All right.
This is my opportunity to tell them, listen, we can just pick where we left off, Cortez. Is that cool with you?
Yeah. So this is freestyle right here on the Cortez Hustle Show.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I could freestyle, but I won't, even though my son begs me to all the time. But really and truly, the whole point for me is to help people understand, again, how to relate in terms of our values, our healthful mindset, our communities, routines, and goals. And I'm starting at home base, because the houses of worship and those that are community based are areas where people often go in order to get assistance in areas, even if they don't understand what they're looking for. And so one of the things that I'm doing right now is having a 3-day presentation to deal with all of those areas. And I'm going anywhere and everywhere in the world. My team is working on it right now as we speak, Cortez, no joke. And so for those who want to invite L. David Harris to your church or your community center or your community place of worship, that I want you to reach out to booking at takeyourlifebacknow.com. That's booking at takeyourlifebacknow.com. We are elevating people, thankfully, so that we don't have to continue to be statistics. We don't have to continue to be subjected to whatever went wrong in our past or whatever unhealthy mindset that some of us still entertain. We can have a breakthrough in just 3 days, man. Really in a day, but I'm giving you 3, man. Let's go.
Let's go. Boom, drop the mic. That is freestyle right here, the L. David Harris version. So you kind of hit them with where to reach out to you for booking, any special projects you got going on other than that, and make sure you give them your social media handles if they want to follow you across the World Wide Web.
Yeah, let me do it the other way. You just put my name in a search engine because it's just too many channels. It's too many channels, Cortez. Trust me, there's too many channels. But just put my full name, L. David Harris. Close it into quotes and you'll find me. I'm extremely easy to find. I am L. David Harris on Twitter. But if you just want to reach out to me, and listen, if you reach out, you need to really need something. Because if you really need something, you're going to get more than you bargained for. We try to give you at least 10 times what you bargained for at every time. So let's go.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been listening to and learning from Mr. L. David Harris. I'm going to have you back on the show at some point because I feel like this was just laying the foundation. Like, I don't think we got into anything, but foundation is good, right? You can build from a solid foundation.
Yes, sir. I'd be honored.
I appreciate you guys all for tuning in. You heard them. Google the name L. David Harris if you want to reach out, but only reach out if you want something, because you're going to get more than what you bargained for. So that's going to do it for us, man. Until we talk to you next time, I want you to get your money up, because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. Now, hustle up. But you've got to overcome fear if you're going to win.
You're tuned into the Cortez Hustle Show. Please like and subscribe.